Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. Some awful news starting to emerge on Twitter, something that had been bubbling for the better part of today, and something I was not going to dive into unless I had some concrete information, and that's now starting to arrive. There was an incident in Union Parish on Friday night the 9th, and the news report from up in Union Parish said that Farmerville police deputies responded to a shooting on Georgia Street in Farmerville near the Union Villa apartments. Initial calls reported numerous shots being fired, multiple victims, and when the authorities arrived, 2 victims were found suffering from gunshot wounds. One female had been shot 3 times, listed in critical condition. Another male victim was shot once in the lower leg. And this incident was updated a couple days ago. And now some of the rumors that have been flying around are crystallizing. As Pete Thamel, reputable college football reporter for ESPN, has just tweeted out, Sheriff Dusty Gates of the Union Parish Sheriff's Office in Farmerville tells ESPN that running back Trey Holly has been taken into custody on 3 felony charges: attempted second-degree murder, aggravated criminal damage to property, and illegal use of a weapon. Thamel adds he's being held on a $512,000 bond. Gates said that Holly turned himself in today, one of 3 arrests tied to that shooting on February the 9th. It's just awful news. And there's limited information available as to what happened. We understand that Trey turned himself in, which I can assume is some sort of admission of guilt. He'll have his day in court, obviously, and we'll see what materializes from this situation. But it's hard not to just look at it with an overwhelming amount of sadness because of poor decision-making. And the first thought you have goes to the victims, and I have not gotten an update on the young lady that was shot 3 times and was in critical condition, and you certainly hope that everything ends up okay there. Have not gotten an update on the male who was shot in the lower leg, and certainly hope that a full recovery is in the near future for him as well. I just sit here personally, and I just struggle to understand how a situation between young people results in this. What could escalate something to the point where multiple victims are shot? I struggle to understand that. And I understand that young people make impulsive and poor decisions. I certainly, as a young person, made plenty of impulsive and dumb decisions. But I have trouble making sense of it. Trey Holly is the most decorated running back in the history of the state of Louisiana, is playing football at the flagship school of the state of Louisiana, and has so much promise in a young person. And to have a situation turn into this is heartbreaking. And it's hard not to think, man, he just threw away how much of his life? Again, the most important thing is the victims and their health. And I don't have an update there, but I have an update on Trey Holly, who's turned himself in. It's a poor decision to even put yourself in that situation, much less to make the decision ultimately that he's being brought in on charges for. That's the crux of this story. I can get into what the LSU running back rotation looks like, and we will, because this is a sports show, and that is relevant here. But it feels so insignificant when you boil down the situation that has been presented here. And it's just so too prevalent in our world. Just happens far too often. So we'll see as anything develops with Trey Holly. We'll keep you posted. But if you're just tuning in and trying to listen to what is he talking about with baseball right around the corner, and he's Pete Thamel, ESPN, reporting that the sheriff up at Union Parish in Farmerville, Trey Holly's hometown, tells ESPN that LSU running back Trey Holly has been taken into custody on 3 felony charges: attempted second-degree murder, aggravated criminal damage to property, and illegal use of a weapon. He's being held on $512,000 bond. Gates, the sheriff, said that Holly turned himself in today, one of 3 arrests tied to a shooting on February 9th. Again, not a ton of information based on what happened other than the report coming out on Friday that 2 people were shot in an incident, and that's the incident that Thamel is referring to. So I'll briefly kind of look at this from a football perspective, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more detail maybe next week. But LSU now, with the transfer of Logan Diggs and the decision and Trey Holly's arrest, certainly you know that Diggs will not be around, and you would have a hard time pegging Trey Holly being on the football team in the fall. Again, he'll have his day in court, but as I said here today, that doesn't feel like a likelihood. That fair? I would say. So you've got some talent. Josh Williams comes back as a senior. I think everyone is really excited about the running back that Caleb Jackson can become, and I've sung the praises of Caden Durham for 2 months now. I think he's going to be a star. But you cannot enter an SEC football season with 3 running backs. That is not going to fly. Running backs take a beating. They get hurt in camp a lot. And we've seen Armani Goodwin's entire career at LSU result in nothing but injury. So they're going to have to be active in the transfer portal. I wouldn't put it quite as pressing a need as defensive tackle, because I just think they're really depleted at defensive tackle at this point. But you're way too thin. You were thin at 4 running backs. You're way too thin at 3. So they're going to have to find somebody. The good news, if you're LSU, is that it's, generally speaking, easier to find a 5'11", 215-pound guy that can run the football than it is to find a 6'4", 320-pound active defensive front player who can cause havoc in the run game. Running backs a little bit more available, so LSU's going to have to look into that, but it's secondary as you sit here today and think about a 19-year-old with all that promise who was in a situation that results in this, his arrest and being charged with 3 felonies and being held on more than $500,000 worth bond. Just really, really, really disappointing and heartbreaking to read. But that's the news of the day in regards to LSU running back Trey Holly. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.